So we are in a series called Wind and Waves. Wind and Waves. We're talking about life. We're having a real talk about real life. Because how many people know that it's not always sunny, no matter what you say, when somebody's like, "How you doing?" "Good, brother." That was my best impersonation of a southern guy saying, "I'm good, brother." That's what I got. That's what I got. Because we just put on the plastic church facade, and it's kind of a thing, most people would think. You go to church, you put on your Sunday best outside, you put on your big smile, and you kind of fake it, and you make everybody believe that by the power of God's grace, love, and amazing glory towards me, I've never had an issue in my life. I've never had a flat tire. My car doesn't even actually use gas. And my kids are so well behaved, you wouldn't believe. We've never, ever once gotten mad at each other. We sit down, we just have the best little family. If you love Jesus, it would happen to you too. But if we could just be real, that's not life. That's the fake Christian life. Because Jesus said something really interesting. He said, "In this life there will be trouble and great sorrow." Jesus' words, not mine. And so don't shoot the messenger. Don't get mad at me. Because we're going to learn today how we can make it through the winds and the waves of life over the next couple of weeks at least. We can learn a little bit more as we kind of run into the end of the summer here. Does that sound like fun? Yeah. So that sounds like fun to me too. Super interesting thing happened to me today. Printed the wrong notes. That's not what this sermon is called. Good news, it's here. Today we're going to talk about self-inflicted storms. Now I realize you can't like self-inflict a storm. It's not like you could walk outside, unless you're Eeyore or your own rain cloud. That's a different thing. But we're talking about self-inflicted storms. When storms are coming, how we make it worse sometimes. And so that's going to be a super interesting thing. I'm really excited about doing it. We're going to take a boat trip with our favorite Captain Paul, and Luke is actually in the journey as well, ready from the first person. And so we'll just dig into that before it gets weirder. Acts 27, verse 4, please. All right. Putting out to sea from there, we encountered strong headwinds. I'm going to set the story for just a second here, because you're like, where's there? So Paul has been arrested at this point for preaching the gospel, and he's asked to go to Caesar because he's a Roman citizen, getting unfair treatment. So he's going to appear before Caesar to make a defense of his actions in proclaiming the faith, and being a Christian and all the things that he's been. They're thinking they want to put him to death for. And he's like, I need to go to Caesar. And at the end of chapter 26, actually, the guy's like, well, if he had not appealed to go to Caesar, I'd have let him go, but I got to take him to Caesar. And so that's in Rome, which is not close to where they were, and so they have to sail. And so this is a very long sailing journey we're about to go on in the Bible. So here we go. Putting out to sea from there, we encountered strong headwinds that made it difficult to keep the ship on course. So we sailed north of Cyprus between the island and the mainland. Keeping the open sea, we passed along the coast of Cilicia and Pamphylia, landing at Myra in the province of Lycia. There, the commanding officer found an Egyptian ship from Alexandria that was bound for Italy, where Rome is, and he put us on board. We had several days of slow sailing. Say several days of slow sailing. And after I cut you off, I'm sorry. That was rude. How rude. And after great difficulty, say great difficulty. We finally neared, but the wind was against us. So we sailed across to Crete and along the sheltered coast of the island, past the Cape of Salmone. We struggled along the coast with great difficulty and finally arrived at the fair havens near the town of Lycia. I'm going to pause there. Actually, I'm going to keep going. We struggled along. We had lost a lot of time. The weather was becoming dangerous for sea travel because it was so late in the fall, and Paul spoke to the ship's officers about it. Then he said, I believe there is trouble if we go on, shipwreck, loss of cargo, and danger to our lives as well. But the officer in charge of the prisoners listened more to the ship's captain and the owner than to Paul. And since Fair Havens was an exposed harbor, a poor place to spend the winter, most of the crew wanted to go on to Phoenix, farther up the coast of Crete, and spend the winter there. Phoenix was a good harbor with only a southwest and northwest exposure. So that's where we're stuck. God, I pray that this morning as we dig into your word, you would show us, teach us, lead us into your truth. Help us to understand what you're saying to us and speak to our hearts. In Jesus' name, amen. Keep reading those like there's going to be help there. So we just read 12 verses of the Bible, and I want to explain a little bit about how, I guess we read 8 verses, 12 verses, and there's how the Bible was written. This would, to write words, and one of the reasons that most Bible stories are very short and they don't give a lot of very intense detail, that it's definitely not written like a novel, though it could be because so much happened during this time, is that it was very expensive to produce anything written. And so Luke here is the writer of Acts. He also wrote the book Luke. And he's writing this, and it's just super interesting to me that he is detailing the ins and outs of this marine journey for us in harbors and this place, and then we hit the open sea and all these things. It just seems like it's a lot of detail that generally isn't provided in the Bible. Like we don't usually see, went to this port and that port in Phoenix and the one Caleb can't pronounce. And it's just interesting. I was like, God, why is all of that in there? And I don't know 100%, but this is my guess. Maybe you can go with me on this a little bit. I think that Luke wanted us to see just how difficult and just how long this journey had been. Because I think they could have, in a sentence, had written the journey from here to Fair Havens was treacherous and long. And we would have gotten the point. But I think Luke wanted to draw it out a little bit because I think he wanted us to see just how treacherous and just how long and just how it seemingly at every single turn they were going to, we got this fair winds and no. And then it was a long struggle against difficult wind. Kind of again and again and again and again. And I don't know if you've ever felt like this. Like your life is just a long struggle against difficult winds. Maybe it's at your job. Maybe you're at your job right now, and you feel like you show up every single day, and everybody in the office is against you. Everybody's kind of pushing back, and you're not getting the information you need. You're getting thrown under the bus all the time, and just when you feel like, this could go better this week. This project might be a really good, helpful thing for my career. It might be good for my mental state and even my soul, because it's just going to give me a little bit of a break, and then that guy that you don't like and hate the way he works, and he's always micromanaging you, gets thrown right on your team. Dang it. I thought this was going to be the easy one. Just thing after thing after thing. One of those seasons where we just have to sail around the corner. Why can't we? And you got to go all sorts of crazy directions and go ways you didn't think you wanted to go and go places you didn't know you wanted to go. Crazy. Maybe it's a season in your marriage where you just feel like no matter what, you wake up and you're like, I'm going to have the best day. And you get up and you make coffee and you do breakfast and you let the dog out and the whole thing's going right, and then you say this is the dumbest thing. You're like, why did I say that? I got up and made breakfast for you because I'm so amazing. When's the last time you did that for me? You're like, shit. Or maybe it's a little more intense of a season than that. It seems like every time you have conversation, you're just speaking past each other and you can't see eye to eye. Or maybe it's a deployment that's going on longer and longer and they won't seem to end it. Or maybe, who knows what's going on in your marriage. Sometimes over the long haul, there's just seasons where it just is hard to connect. Or maybe it's a season with one of your kids that Doesn't matter what you do, this is just rocky right now. Doesn't matter if you talk to them in a loving way or in a stern way. It doesn't matter no matter how you approach your kids in this season, it just seems like they're just going to flip out and go the wrong way, and just nothing you can do. There's no way of connecting. Maybe it's a long, difficult, crazy season, or maybe it's all of that. Can I tell you that just because it might be all of that doesn't mean that God has left you? I think one of the first things we start to think is, A, things are going bad in my life. B, God must be absent. I don't know why I lettered those. I could have just said, things are going wrong in my life. God must be absent. But I would have lettered. So for an outline, maybe it's weird. But it's what we do. We think, man, my marriage is rough. God must not be in my marriage. Or this job is weird and hard right now, so God must not be here with me in this job. Or we take this resistance almost to what's happening in our hearts, or what's happening in our lives. We take that resistance and we apply it to the presence or absence of God. There is a promise that Jesus made for all of us, for all time. And he says, I will be with you always, even till the end of the age. So I will be with you always, even till the end of the age. This is what Jesus told his disciples as he's getting ready to leave the planet and send the Spirit. And he said, I will be with you always. What does that mean? That means in every single step, in every season, in every situation, whether it's a hard, long season, God was with Paul, still here. God was with Luke, still here. And in your difficult situation, God is with you, still there. Whatever it is, God is in it with us. Don't think that what you did scared God away. We're going to see here in a minute that even when we go from bad to worse and it's our fault, God still doesn't leave us, still doesn't forsake us. The Bible says that if we are faithless, God remains faithful. Because he's a good God, because he's with us, because he loves us. An incredible amount. He loves us in incredible ways. So we're in one of these tough seasons. One of these seasons is just a grind. Just a grind. You wake up, it's tough. You go to bed, it's tough. You feel like, oh, I'm going to get to go do this thing. I'll get a little bit of a break. And it just turns out the plans fall through. You're like, this is a lie, always hard. Maybe like formulate good sentences. What do we do? I don't know, maybe you've been in one of those seasons. I've definitely seen my fair share of those seasons. And what I want to talk about today is what we do in those moments when we're faced with tough decisions. So, like Paul, think of our lives as this ship sailing through the Mediterranean, around Greece there, trying to get our way up to Rome. And every time we come around the corner, it goes from bad to worse. There's a couple things that you are going to want to do. Every time it seems like in those seasons, when there's like an exit sign or like a light at the end of the tunnel, it's easy to get blinded by that and trip over everything that's in the way, everything else that's in the way. It's like, okay, I can get out, I've got to go out now. Let's go back to our story, starting at verse 13, and we will see what happens when we take the easy way out. What seems to be the easy way out. We clear up the background. There it goes. Sorry, I missed. When a light wind began blowing from the south, the sailors thought, they could make it. So they pulled up an anchor and sailed close to the shore of Crete. But the weather changed abruptly, and the wind of typhoon strength, called a northeaster, burst across the island and blew us out to sea. The sailors couldn't turn the ship into the wind, so they gave up and let it run before the gale. We sailed along the sheltered side of a small island named Cauda, where with great difficulty we hoisted aboard the lifeboat being towed behind us. Then the sailors bound ropes around the hull of the ship to strengthen it. They were afraid of being driven across to the sandbars of Syrtis off the African coast, so they lowered the sea anchor to slow down the ship, and we were driven for the wind south. In these moments where you're like, the harbor they were at, winter is coming, right? They decided, we can't stay here for winter because it was exposed, and it's not like winter is now for them. When we get into a house and we turn on the heat and we're like, man, winter is so horrible. We're like, I have to go all the way out to my car that's in the garage. Dang. It's gonna be so cold when I get where I'm going. These houses didn't really have heaters, they kind of had fires. And probably for a prisoner and a bunch of sailors, this is not going to be a really great winter to be spending on an exposed coast with violent winter winds ripping through your little city. So, at the end of this long road, tough sailing against winds, through storms, they come to this place where they're thinking about, man, I'm going to have to spend the entire winter in this town. They're like, anything. We will do anything to get away. But Paul, who represents the voice of God in this story, Paul says, let's stay here. It could get worse. And then the captain, who has all the experience in the world, and the sailors, who have some more experience, I would expect, were like, you know what, we can go. They all listen to the captain instead of to Paul. So the first thing I want to say is that if there seems like there's a way out, that's like, and that in these moments where life is hard and it's long and hard and the storm has been going for a long time, this is what I want you to write this down. This is kind of my big point for today. Listen to people who listen to God. Listen to people who listen to God. There will be people in your life who present themselves as captains, and they may even be captains. They may be very smart in the area of whatever it is that you're going through. They may know more about marriage, they may know more about whatever than you know, and that your pastor knows or your group leader knows. They may know more. But I would say listen to people who listen to God. Because God knows more than all the experts. And it doesn't actually say here that Paul learned from God that he should tell these people not to go sail. But what we gather from the letters of Paul is that he had a constant dialogue with God, and that everything he did, he was kind of like submitting to God. And so we can kind of like believe that at this point in Paul's life, when he looks at a situation, he isn't just like, this is what Paul thinks. Get people in your life who don't look at situations like, this is what Caleb thinks. Get people who are grounded in the scriptures, who know you really well, who love you, and who can speak the truth to your life in difficult seasons. Because your marriage will get hard. And in the middle of your marriage, if it's really hard, and you're like, man, I just haven't felt a connection, I haven't felt a passion, I haven't felt a thing, and then there's a connection. It may not be my wife, but it's that connection that I've been in. That's that exit light, but it is fraught with trouble. In that moment, listen to people who listen to God. Because your marriage is way more valuable. And that fleeting thing is going to cause years of pain. Listen to people who listen to God. You run into a long, hard season with your kids and you don't know what to do and you don't know how to get it together, and listen to people who listen to God. Because sometimes, honestly, it's probably not sinful for this, you can't go through the Bible and find any places that says, don't leave Fairhavens when the fall is coming to an end to go sailing. It's not like a direct scriptural command to never do this thing, right? But there's a guy around who listens to God. Say, listen to that guy. Not just one guy. Don't have a guy that controls your life. That's not what I'm saying. Weird. It happens, but it's weird. Find a person. Find a group of people. We have groups here. Seems like a really great place to plug in. hey, I'm going through this season, it's a little tough. Here's what I'm thinking about doing. The Bible says that there's safety in the counsel of many. You know how to mistake-proof your decisions during long, hard, grinding seasons? Get with other people. Say, how does this look to you? Because fatigue is one of the things that makes decisions really, really hard. And it's easy to make really wrong decisions when we're fatigued. So if we get other people who maybe haven't been through the same storms, help us out. Major key. Listen to people who listen to God. We have the band come on up here. As I want to talk about how this all kind of ends. And we pick this back up at verse 18. Because they were in a tough season, and that was just their season. They didn't do anything to earn that season. They didn't do anything to make that season worse, but they made it through. And then when they made the decision to not listen to the one who listens to God, but to listen to the ones who don't listen to God, and have a pretty vested interest in fooling themselves, they get into this massive storm. And it gets crazy. And in verse 18, gale force winds continue to batter the ship. The crew began throwing the cargo overboard. The following day, they even took some of the ship's gear and threw it overboard. The terrible storm raged for many days. Blotting out the sun and the stars until all hope was gone. Say, all hope was gone. All hope was gone. No one had eaten for a long time. So now not only is all hope gone, they don't have any cargo, they have lost everything, but everybody's angry. No one had eaten for a long time. Finally, Paul called the crew together and said, men, you should have listened to me in the first place. Yeah? And we could have avoided all this damage and loss. 22. But take courage. Take courage. None of you will lose your lives, even though the ship will go down. For last night, an angel of the God to whom I belong and whom I serve stood before me. And he said, don't be afraid, Paul, for you will surely stand trial before Caesar. What's more, God in his goodness has granted safety to everyone sailing with you. So take courage, for I believe God. It will be just as he said. But we will be shipwrecked on that. That's where it ends. The story ends, and they are shipwrecked on the island, and all the prisoners and everybody makes it to shore safely, and this is the island Malta, where they spend the winter in Malta. But there's something really cool about this story that is like a mirror to all of our lives. All of us have gone our own way. All of us have, in moments of hard, long seasons, made worse decisions by following people who don't follow God. And we've all followed bad advice. We've even followed our own bad advice. We've made it worse for ourselves, all of us. And even in those moments, in those seasons where it was bad and we made it worse, God still comes in. He doesn't leave us. He doesn't forsake us. He makes sure that we make it to safety. We may have gone through more than we thought we would have to go through. And maybe more than he wanted us to go through. Sometimes when it gets worse, it's our fault. But because he's good, because he loves us, and because he wants the best for us, and because ultimately he wants our souls, he comes in and he saves us still. There's a voice in your life of a person who listens to God, who will be speaking to you, who is ready to help you off of that train. Who's ready to say, you know what? It's going to be good. It was bad, it got worse, but it's going to get better. It's Jesus. He's in the midst of it. He's here with us. He's here with you. And he's going to make sure that we stay safe. So the key to making it through the long season, the grinding season, the season full of wind and the season full of waves, is to just not quit. It's to stay close to community, but ultimately realize that there's one who's going to pull you through. And no matter how you try to pull yourself through, you're not going to make it. But when you let If any preacher ever tells you life is always easy, they're lying because their life isn't easy. No one's life is easy. But we can give God an incredible amount of glory. Do you think those sailors learned who the real God was after days and days and days of not eating, strong storms, after all hope was lost? One hope remained.